Every night, you vanish, and no one finds that strange. Not just your body, not just your thoughts, but your consciousness, your very sense of being, slips quietly into a dimension no one can fully explain. One moment you're here, grounded in what we call reality. The next, your eyes are closed, your awareness fades, and everything you know evaporates. But you don't disappear into nothing. You go somewhere. The question is, where? We've been told it's simple. Sleep, they say, is a maintenance function. The body rests, the brain resets, and your system gets a fresh start for the next day. That's it. End of story. But if that's all it is, why do dreams often feel more real than anything you experience while awake? Why do some of them leave behind emotions that last for days, like echoes from a place you can't quite remember but never really forget? And why do some people, quietly, mysteriously, report things they've seen in dreams that later happen in waking life? Exact conversations, places, faces, futures? Something doesn't add up. Not when your nightly disappearance feels less like rest and more like a journey. Science tries to explain it away. They call dreams random brain activity, meaningless, fragmented flashes caused by neurons firing in the dark. They say the brain is just sorting through memories, solving problems unconsciously. But ask yourself this: if dreams are nothing more than chaotic leftovers of the day, why do they sometimes carry messages? Lessons? Feelings that awaken parts of you didn't even know existed? There's an ancient truth that modern minds have tried to forget. Sleep may not be a shutdown. It may be a passage. Across every civilization, long before the microscope or the EEG, people believed sleep was sacred. To the Mayans, dreams were communications from the gods. To the ancient Egyptians, they were journeys of the soul. In Aboriginal traditions, the dream time was considered the real world, the one that came before and will come after. In many Eastern teachings, dreaming is not fantasy, it's another layer of reality. A layer that reveals truths this waking life cannot contain. The strangeness of sleep isn't just spiritual, it's scientific too. During REM sleep, when the most vivid dreams occur, your brain doesn't calm down. In fact, it becomes hyperactive. Some regions even show more activity than when you're awake. But not all parts of the brain turn on. The logical, rational centers, the ones that govern reason and skepticism, they go dark. Meanwhile, areas tied to emotion, memory, and visual processing light up like a storm. It's as if the brain isn't trying to rest at all. It's trying to feel, to remember, to see something it can't access in daylight. And then there's time. Time during dreams doesn't behave. You can live an entire lifetime in a dream and wake up to find that only minutes have passed. You can fall asleep, dream of a war, a love affair, a fall, a rebirth, and be jolted awake by your alarm as if no time passed at all. How can your brain, in such a short span, create entire worlds, entire histories? Why would it want to? People wake up from dreams shaken, elated, haunted, changed. They report seeing faces of people they've never met, and later, meeting them. They describe conversations that haven't yet happened. They speak of places that don't exist until they find them. Sometimes they return from dreams with knowledge, insights, or even inspiration they can't explain. How is this possible? If the dream world is only a recycling bin of thoughts, where does the new information come from? And here's where things get even stranger. Every night, your brain produces a chemical called dimethyltryptamine, DMT. It's one of the most powerful psychedelics known to science. When taken externally, DMT catapults people into stunning, indescribable realms. They report vivid contact with beings, landscapes beyond imagination, and knowledge that feels ancient and personal. But what most people don't know is that your body creates it naturally. Scientists believe it's released during birth, death, and every time you dream. Why? If dreams are simply the mind's filing system, why flood the brain with a chemical link to spiritual awakening, near-death experiences, and encounters with otherworldly intelligences? What are we actually accessing when we dream? Those who have taken DMT externally often describe it not as a hallucination, but as a reality shift. They don't feel like they're imagining something. They feel like they're being shown something. The experience is so consistently reported across cultures, languages, and belief systems that some researchers are beginning to suspect what shamans have always said. DMT doesn't create hallucinations. It tunes your brain to a different frequency of existence. And if that's true, then maybe dreams are doing the same thing, only naturally. This would explain why so many near-death experiences echo dreamlike states. Tunnels of light. Encounters with beings of intelligence and love. The overwhelming sensation of peace. People come back from these experiences fundamentally changed. They speak with certainty. I saw something real. And once again, the chemical at the center of those experiences? DMT. What if it's a key? A molecular bridge between this world and the next. A substance that allows your consciousness to slip beyond the physical, to touch something infinite. And if it's released every night as you sleep, then what are you touching over and over again without even realizing? And why do you forget it? Why do we so often wake with only fragments of the journey, like sand slipping through our fingers? Is it because the brain is designed to suppress it? To block out what lies beyond, keeping us anchored to this shared illusion we call waking life? Some traditions say yes. They claim our physical world is just one layer, that true consciousness exists beyond this material shell, that dreams are reminders, windows into our origin. Think about it. You've had a dream before that felt different, not chaotic or nonsensical, but precise. Real, as if you weren't dreaming, but remembering. And then, days or years later, it happens. A moment unfolds in real life exactly as it did in your dream. The conversation, the setting, the outcome. You try to dismiss it as coincidence, déjà vu, but it's not. You know it, and you're not alone. Abraham Lincoln dreamed of his own assassination. Survivors of the Titanic spoke of ominous visions days before they set sail. Throughout history, people have seen the future in their dreams. Some call it prophecy. Others call it impossible. But what if the dream world isn't bound by time the way waking life is? Quantum physics has already proposed that time is not a straight line, that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. That our perception of linear time is just that, a perception. What if sleep allows us to momentarily step outside of it? What if dreams are not memories of what was, but previews of what could be? Mainstream science scoffs. They say it's your brain picking up patterns, making predictions subconsciously. But that doesn't explain the specificity, the accuracy, the emotional certainty people feel when their dreams come true. This isn't just memory. It's access. Access to something beyond space and time. A realm where truth doesn't need to follow the rules of logic or physics. A place where the veil is thin and something ancient, something intelligent, is watching. Some even believe this reality, the one you wake into, is the real illusion. That sleep is the only time your consciousness returns to its origin. That dreaming is you, remembering what you truly are. And if that's true, then waking up isn't the end of the dream. It's the start of the forgetting. So ask yourself, why have we been taught to dismiss dreams? To ignore them? Why has modern life reduced them to nonsense when every ancient culture treated them as sacred? Maybe it's because if we took them seriously, we'd start asking dangerous questions. What is this place we call reality? Who, what, Am I really? And why does something beyond this world keep trying to speak to me when I sleep? You don't have to accept any of this. But tonight, when you close your eyes, pay attention. You're not just resting. You're traveling. And the question isn't what happens when you fall asleep. It's what happens when you wake up. What if time isn't what we've been taught to believe? What if it bends and folds and spirals in ways we can't yet comprehend, especially when we sleep? You close your eyes for what feels like seconds, and yet in your dream, you live out hours, days, sometimes entire lifetimes. You laugh with people who don't exist, fall in love with strangers your waking self has never met, suffer losses that leave an ache even after you open your eyes. And when you wake, blinking against the dim light of morning, it's gone. Only fragments remain. But the emotions linger, as real and raw as anything you felt in your day-to-day life. If time and dreams can stretch like that, expand into entire realities, what does that say about the nature of consciousness? Maybe our minds aren't tethered to time at all. Maybe consciousness, when set free from the physical body, slips through the cracks in the fabric of reality, drifting through something far more vast than linear minutes and hours. In our dreams, we're not just passively observing, we're experiencing, navigating, even creating. And that opens the door to something incredible. Maybe the future isn't some far-off, unreachable thing. Maybe in those fleeting, surreal moments of dreaming, we're dipping our toes into possibilities that haven't happened yet or have happened somewhere else. Think of time not as a straight line, but as an endless ocean, where every moment that has ever happened or could ever happen floats beside us. When we're awake, we're locked into a narrow stream, riding the current from past to future. But when we sleep, we drift. We sail in every direction. We touch pieces of something bigger, deeper, realities that stretch beyond the limits of our waking perception. This might explain the dreams that come true, the prophetic visions, the déjà vu that slams into you like a wave because you know you've been here before. Could it be that in sleep, we access a version of time where everything, past, future, and all branching paths in between already exists, and our consciousness is free to explore? If that's true, what does that say about free will? If we dream of events that later come to pass, is the future fixed? Or are these dreams not visions of destiny, but glimpses into the many paths we might take? Perhaps we are not prisoners of fate, but dreamers with keys to doors we've yet to walk through. Perhaps the future isn't written in stone, but in sand, and the tide is ours to shape. And yet, for all their wonder, dreams can also drag us into darkness. Imagine this. You wake up. At least, you think you do. Your eyes open, but your body doesn't move. Something presses against your chest, a crushing, suffocating weight. You try to scream, but your voice is trapped somewhere deep inside. And then, in the dim corner of the room, you see it. A figure, shadowed, still, watching. You can't move. You can't breathe. You can only feel. And that feeling tells you something ancient and terrifying. You are not alone. This is sleep paralysis. One of the most horrifying experiences a person can have, and yet it's one of the most commonly reported. Scientists tell us it's just a trick of the brain, a harmless delay in your body's ability to wake up, a dream bleeding into reality, a glitch. But how do you explain the consistency? Millions of people from all corners of the world, across different eras, cultures, languages, all describing the same thing. The same dark figures, the same crushing weight, the same feeling of dread, of something real watching from the shadows. The old hag, the shadow man, the hat man. Names change, but the presence remains. How is it that hallucinations, which are supposed to be random and chaotic, paint such consistent portraits? How do people who have never spoken, never read each other's stories, see the same eyes staring at them from the dark. Some cultures don't dismiss it as a brain malfunction. They call it an encounter, an intrusion, a moment when the veil between worlds thins and something crosses over. In folklore, they're spirits, demons, interdimensional entities that live beside us in silence, invisible until you're stuck between sleep and wake, unable to run, unable to scream. For those few moments, you are exposed. It's not just the visual horror. It's the presence. People who experience sleep paralysis speak of a deep, primal certainty that something intelligent is in the room with them. Not a dream, not a vision, a being, watching, waiting, feeding on fear. And that suffocating pressure on the chest? It's not unique. Across continents and belief systems, stories speak of the same phenomenon. In medieval Europe, it was the incubus sitting on your chest, draining your energy. In Japan, it's kanashibari, a spiritual restraint. In parts of South America, it's believed to be malevolent spirits draining life from sleeping souls. Different names, same experience. If it's all just a trick of the mind, why does it feel so real? So universal? So ancient? And then there are the dreams where you don't just drift, you take control. You're flying, bending reality to your will, creating mountains, cities, entire worlds with a thought. The people you meet feel real. The sky changes color when you ask it to. You can taste the wind. You can feel the ground shift beneath your feet, but you know it's all a dream. This is lucid dreaming, when the dreamer becomes aware, and that awareness grants power. It's not just fantasy, it's revolution. Because if your brain can build an entire simulated world while you sleep, complete with physics, emotions, even other conscious seeming characters, what does that say about the reality you wake up into? Some scientists argue that reality itself is just another construct. The colors you see are just interpretations of light. Time is a system your brain invented so you don't go mad. If everything is filtered through perception, then what's the difference between this life and the world you build in your dreams? Ancient philosophies, like Tibetan Buddhism, teach that waking life and dreams are both illusions. That waking up inside a dream is training for the ultimate awakening, realizing that life itself is a dream. What if lucid dreaming is the first step toward breaking the illusion entirely? And here's where things get even stranger. Have you ever returned to the same place in multiple dreams? A city that doesn't exist. A house you've never lived in, but know like the back of your hand. People who greet you like family, though you've never seen them in your waking life. These are recurring dreamscapes, and they're not rare. People talk about visiting the same dream location for years, sometimes decades. The layout never changes. The people age. Stories evolve. These aren't scattered memories, they're persistent realities. Memory fades, but dream worlds remain frozen in time, waiting for your return. That's not how imagination works. That's how parallel realities would work. Modern physics, especially quantum theory, supports the idea of the multiverse, countless alternate versions of you, each living different lives based on every decision you've ever made. What if dreams are how we occasionally step into those other versions? What if you're not just dreaming of another life, you're dreaming from another life? Some dreamers recall lifetimes that never happened in this world. They wake up with memories of different families, different paths, full existences that vanish with the morning light. How does a sleeping brain create such complex, vivid, emotionally charged histories overnight? Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just remembers. And if dreams allow us to tap into these other selves, could it be that something in those realities is trying to reach back? What if we're not the only ones looking through the veil? You wake up, and the dream clings to you. For a few fleeting seconds, it's all there: the warmth, the sorrow, the scent of a place that doesn't exist. You try to hold on to it, but it slips away like mist in the sunlight. All that remains is a feeling you can't shake, a whisper of something more. Why do we forget? Why does the mind let us create such intricate realities only to wipe them clean the moment we return? Maybe it's a defense mechanism. Maybe it's a rule. Or maybe, just maybe, dreams are doors. And some doors were never meant to stay open. Mainstream science tells us that dreams don't really matter, that the brain treats them as low-priority junk files, chaotic, surreal, and ultimately useless to our survival. We're told that the hippocampus, our brain's memory bank, doesn't bother recording dreams the way it does waking life. Instead, most of them dissolve into nothingness the moment we open our eyes, slipping away like mist in the morning sun. But here's the question few ever ask. If dreams are so meaningless, why does the brain invest so much energy into producing them? Why do we enter REM sleep, the most active stage of our night, where brain activity sometimes rivals or exceeds that of the waking state? Why would our biology create entire worlds, entire experiences, only to erase them seconds later? And more importantly, why do some dreams refuse to be forgotten? There are dreams that hit like lightning, vivid, lucid, impossible to ignore. Some are so powerful that they haunt us for years, etched into memory as deeply as any waking trauma or bliss. These are the dreams that feel like messages, like visits from another place, or perhaps another version of ourselves. They whisper secrets that we can't quite grasp, but can't forget either. And they leave us with a deep, unsettling question. What was that? Some researchers have started to shift the narrative. What if forgetting dreams isn't just a glitch in our biological software, but a deliberate feature? A safety mechanism? Think about it. If we remembered every dream with the same clarity we remember our waking life, how long before we began confusing the two? How long before the boundary between what's real and what's imagined began to blur? Maybe that's why the brain deletes dreams. Maybe it's not forgetting, it's protecting us. But protecting us from what, exactly? Could it be that some dreams show us things we're not meant to carry back into daylight? That they offer a glimpse into something so vast, so strange, so fundamentally different from the rules of this reality, that remembering them would destabilize everything we think we know? Perhaps forgetting isn't failure, it's mercy. And yet, there are always exceptions. Certain dreams break through the barrier. They return over and over, sometimes unchanged, sometimes evolving like chapters in a story we've forgotten we're writing. They feature places we've never seen but instantly recognize. People we've never met but somehow love. Messages we can't decode but feel in our bones. In ancient traditions, dreams weren't dismissed as noise. They were sacred. They were communication from gods, spirits, ancestors, or the deeper self. Some believe that dreams were journeys of the soul, that we traveled through different planes of existence while our bodies slept. In some cultures, dreamers were revered because they walked between worlds. So, what happened? How did we go from treating dreams as sacred to treating them like static? Science tells us that dreams are just the brain reorganizing memories, processing emotions, defragging data. But that doesn't explain the prophetic dreams, the shared dreams, the dreams that seem to contain knowledge we couldn't have possibly known. That doesn't explain the people who dream about a tragedy, only for it to happen days later, or the ones who meet someone in a dream, only to find them in real life. And here's where it gets even stranger. Every night, as we drift off to sleep, something extraordinary happens. Our muscles go limp. Our senses shut down. Our brain shifts gears, and our consciousness detaches. We begin to drift. And in that liminal space, between wakefulness and sleep, we enter another world. One with its own rules. its own logic, its own sense of time and place. You felt it before. That sense of stepping into a place that isn't quite yours, but you somehow belong there. That feeling of being in a dream so real, so emotionally charged, that waking up from it feels like a kind of death. What if it's the other way around? What if waking up is the departure and dreaming is the return? Sleep has long been compared to death, but maybe the similarities go deeper than metaphor. In Greek mythology, Hypnos, the god of sleep, was the twin brother of Thanatos, the god of death. Across countless cultures, sleep has been described as a temporary death, a time when the soul leaves the body and travels the unseen realms. Maybe that's not just poetic language. Maybe it's literal. Consider this. The same compound linked to dreaming, DMT, is also released in massive quantities at the moment of death. The pineal gland, often called the seat of the soul, floods the brain with this mysterious molecule in both sleep and dying. And people who have experienced near-death events often report eerily similar things. Floating above their bodies, meeting otherworldly beings, moving through tunnels of light, or entering landscapes beyond human understanding. The most common phrase? It felt more real than real. What if that's because it was? What if sleep is not just rest for the body, but preparation for the soul? Maybe we don't dream of the afterlife. Maybe we visit it night after night, only to forget. And maybe the reason most people forget their dreams is because they're not ready to remember what lies beyond this thin veil we call reality. Maybe it would shatter the illusion that this world, this version of life, is all there is. But not everyone forgets. Some people remember. Some people learn to become conscious inside their dreams, lucid dreamers who awaken within the dream and begin to explore it deliberately. What they find is often profound, sometimes terrifying, sometimes enlightening. Many report meeting entities, unlocking knowledge, even healing trauma in ways that waking therapy could never reach. And if those experiences are happening in what we call the unconscious mind, then maybe our understanding of consciousness is far too limited. Maybe our minds are not confined to the skull. Maybe we are not our bodies. Maybe we are not even in our bodies, at least not entirely. Every night, your awareness leaves the physical. You are no longer bound by time, no longer limited by gravity or logic. You experience things that feel as vivid and emotionally real as waking life. And yet you're told it's all just a dream. But what if the dream is real and this is the illusion? We are conditioned from birth to dismiss what cannot be measured, to laugh off anything that can't be replicated in a lab. But some truths are too big to fit under a microscope. Some experiences are too sacred to be dissected. And dreams may be one of the last untouched frontiers of human consciousness, wild, free, and beyond control. And that's exactly why they scare people. Because if dreams are real, if they're not just noise, but messages, maps, memories, or even other lives, then everything we believe about reality has to change. Suddenly, consciousness isn't a byproduct of the brain. Suddenly, life isn't confined to the material. Suddenly, you aren't just a body, you are something infinite, something capable of traveling between worlds. So the question isn't, what is a dream? The question is, what else have we forgotten? Every night you surrender to the unknown. Your body sleeps, but something deeper, something ancient, awakens. You drift through invisible landscapes. You meet people who don't exist here. You feel emotions that don't belong to this life. And then, as the sun rises, it's all erased. But not always. Some things come back with you. Pieces, symbols, feelings you can't explain. They linger like echoes, waiting to be understood. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the dream world is not there to entertain you. Maybe it's there to wake you, to remind you that there is more, that there has always been more. You were never meant to sleep through life. You were never meant to forget. And tonight, as you close your eyes and fall into that sacred space once again, ask yourself, what if this time I remember? What if the dream doesn't fade? What if the dream is real and this is the one you're supposed to wake up from?